Sanibonani, igama lami uXolani Majola waka Education Matters. Today we are launching the platform where Education Matters, which amongst many podcasts that are out there, focuses primarily on education. We are looking at the education from a complete different point of view. We're looking at the education following stories that are out there but untold. So with me today is Slindile Khanyile, who are involved from the beginning of putting this podcast together, Education Matters. Sli, Sawona, and welcome.
Sanwana, good afternoon.
Sli, you are part of Education Matters, right? Since its inception, right? So what led to this idea of having a podcast that focuses primarily, amongst other things, primarily on education? What led into it?
So Xolani, this is really an expansion of the work that we've been doing for the past 6 years. There is an education and careers publication. It's a digital publication that is distributed via WhatsApp. It's called unpack.
Right.
Some people may be aware of it. So unpack, we've been publishing it, as I say, for the past 6 years, though in its current format for the past 4 years. Unpack, basically, it is a careers guidance in story format.
Story format.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically what we do is we tell the different stories of professionals. We talk about what it is that you require to be in a particular industry.
Right.
We talk about opportunities in those various industries, but we also talk about bursary opportunities, graduate programs. We celebrate academics. We also celebrate school principals.
Right.
We talk about basically a number of things that we hope are able or will be able to assist particularly people who are still thinking about what careers to pursue, or people who are at the beginning of building their careers. So Mkhanyisi is in a digital format. It's distributed via WhatsApp. Initially, it was just a Zulu publication because we also...
I was about to ask on that.
Yes.
What language are you now using?
Yes. So that was because really we felt that is where the gap was in that primarily content is available in English in our country, yet we have 11 official languages.
Absolutely.
And there are people who are excluded, sometimes because of the language, but more and more as we kept going, the response that we kept receiving was that, but actually the unintended consequence as well of publishing in isiZulu is that there are
exclude everyone else who's not Zulu speaking.
Yes, so it is now in both English and Zulu.
That's good.
But what we are now doing with Education Matters is that we are then expanding that work, because we are also mindful of the fact that not necessarily everyone prefers to consume information in a written word. So there are people who are probably going to, find the content more appealing if they are listening.
For instance, myself, I'm one of those people who see better, right, than I can think. No. But
so that's the idea.
Audio visual, right?
Yes.
You want to hear people, you want to see them, right? Oh, okay. So with Mkhanyisi, then suddenly Education Matters is born, right? Was it born out of Mkhanyisi, right? With everything that Mkhanyisi is doing, career, advice, and bursary opportunities, and all of those things. And then you shifted, and we are here. Education Matters, and that's who we are. So Khanyile and Education Matters?
So, Education Matters, yes, it's the name of the podcast, but it is also the name of the NPC,
Right.
under which we now produce all the education content. So, this is one of the programs
Right.
of the NPC. Khanyile is now also a program of the NPC. So that is how the two
I see.
are linked.
I see.
Yeah.
With a particular interest in education and all things education, right? Why specifically education? Why not entertainment? Why not umgosi? Why not, that type of narrative? Why education in particular?
Because we've chosen to say that one of the things we would like to do is to make some contribution to solving particularly the high youth unemployment crisis that we have in our country. We all know the stats. We all, I think one of the things, as we often say in South Africa, that we are very good at is diagnosing what it is that is wrong. Right. But very few people make an effort to say then, how do we, solve
Solutions.
that, So this is solutions journalism, and we are hoping that, through the conversations that we will have on the podcast, as we have been doing through the stories that we have been writing, that someone somewhere, will be equipped, someone somewhere will see an opportunity that they were not aware of because they either read Khanyile or they saw the Education Matters podcast, and then they'll hopefully, as they see that opportunity and they're able to act on it, and then maybe their lives will be improved. That is really what we are trying to do. If you ask me what is the problem statement? It is the high unemployment, youth crisis in our country, and we are hoping that through these conversations, someone will be assisted, and this is really through the people that we will have on the podcast, who will share from their experiences some of the things that have helped them. But we are also hoping that some of the conversations, we'll talk about other unconventional ways of approaching education, which is why in the beginning I also spoke about education in its entirety. We're not necessarily going to just be talking about formal education only,
as in school, university.
Yes,
and it ends
or
there.
that if we're talking about options post matric, that we are only referring to just a traditional university, as it were. We are going to talk about options that are available at TVET colleges. We are going to talk about options that are available from online courses,
So-
a number of things.
So basically, the podcast is a reference point. Basically, kubantu who are out there who are looking for employment, kubantu who are out there trying to make things happen and they don't. Ukuthi athi maybe awuthi ngibukele podcast le yabo, maybe there's something in it that's gonna help me. For instance, things like career advice, right? Baningi abantu who are out there maybe getting certain things wrong to a point, right, and are unable to open those doors, to break down those walls. Ngoba there is a lack of information. There is a lack of, right. So would you say, Education Matters, I almost said Khanyile, Education Matters is going to be that friend along the way?
I'm sorry, guys.
Ivuleke iminyango for a lot of people, young people in particular, out there looking for work, looking to do something with their lives.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about that. There is a lot of information out there. What we are hoping for is to fall under the category of credible information. Because it's true that there's a lot of information out there, but not necessarily all of it is credible.
It's credible.
And
take us through the concept of credible. I like that. I like that because in the world of I think, social media right now, right? In the world of developing and developed information technology, there is exposure to lots and lots of information. But what I keep seeing is that sometimes Ngatabantu don't even know what to do with this information because it is so much, it is out there, and when they have it, they don't know how to use it. So when you say credible, I'm interested in that.
So I think what we do have to also emphasize, Olani, is that we are not just going to be having conversations for the sake of having conversations.
Right.
It is a podcast that is anchored in journalism principles.
Right.
So that means even how we choose guests, we really have to, if we are saying that we are going to have a conversation with someone who is an expert in a particular subject, it must be because we really can back up that Olani is an expert in this particular subject, and we have verified that information, right? Not just because someone probably has a huge following on social media and they've been talking about a particular subject, and then we just label them an expert. So it is going to be anchored in journalism principles. We are a media, we are journalists, we are a media house. So we have to really follow that. And so that also means that in the event that an education is an emotional subject,
Right.
Youth unemployment is an emotional subject.
Right.
So when we have to have difficult conversations, controversial conversations, we will also do that in a manner that is balanced, in a manner that is fair, and we will do it in a manner that really is we are going to be sensitive to how we approach things, and we are not experts.
Right.
And we will never in any way try and portray ourselves as experts. What we really are as journalists, and what we always are really able to do is to create a platform, where then people can have conversations, where people can hopefully come up with solutions, where people can debate issues. And
I'm interested now that you talk about this, right? This is very exciting for me, right? So how would you describe an ideal guest into the show, into the podcast, right? Wakhuluma ngabantu who are solutions minded. We are looking for solutions, right? Would you prefer ukuthi inamba ibe ncane but substance, right? Or fanele we must be out there and we must make noise and we must have numbers and that sort of thing. So education matters as a personality ubona kanjani in that regard.
So one thing that I've learned over the decades is, and especially in fact in the last 6 years of self-employment, is that it's always best to be led by the audience. So it is the audience that will ultimately, we have an idea. Right. We've started this with an idea to say, this is what we think, this is how we will approach it. Similarly, if I were to go back to Khanyile, right, we started with a particular idea, but then the audience responded, and we've had to adjust, because of that. So I don't necessarily, I don't think there is anyone that I would say, this is an ideal, because I think also once we start saying that this is the ideal guest, it probably starts also defeating what we are trying to do, where we are saying when we talk about education, we need to be broad-minded. Right. Because then maybe an ideal then starts being narrow. Right. Right. So
but on the other hand as well, it's not going to be a free for all.
Absolutely. It's not going to be a free-for-all, which is why if we again go back to what I said about it being underpinned by journalism principles, then it means obviously before anyone is invited onto the show, there are certain, basic research principles and things that we would have done before. Once we've decided that, okay, for this particular episode, this is the topic and these are the people that we require. So how those guests will be chosen. But I think we must also be open to being surprised. And hopefully, as people get to know the podcast, people will make suggestions as well. And there are things that we probably would not have thought of, or there are people that we would not have thought of that we will then have to consider. I don't think that we must just, say that, oh, definitely no to this, or definitely we will always, go.
Because obviously you want it to be a creative space.
Absolutely.
Right? An exciting creative space, la abantu bezohlangana khona and interact and share stories and share ideas. And the part which I am very much interested in, solutions. I liked your point that you made earlier about us as South Africans being known as particularly very good when it comes to diagnosing problems. But we are not especially known for coming up with solutions that solve the problems that we would have identified. And so this platform, we are hoping it will give us that opportunity to move and edge closer towards finding solutions for problems that are out there. Because what I'm finding is, yes, you can have a podcast, right? You talk, you drink coffee, you drink beer, you drink whatever that is out there. God, at the end of the day, like how am I being assisted by watching two people drinking coffee and not addressing the problems that I have?
Well, look, I think also though, you earlier you asked why education, why not entertainment or politics or whatever. I think we must also have an appreciation for the fact that there is space for all of us in the ecosystem. Right. We just serve different purposes. True. So this is our burden, so to speak, right? But other people have chosen that they will focus on entertaining us. Right. And that's okay. Yeah. Right?
Nothing wrong
Other
with
people have chosen that maybe, it's politics. For other people, it is health. For other people, it is marriage, it is, mental health, whatever it is that, people have chosen to focus on. Right. There's space for all of us in the ecosystem. And I think that as long as, I just hope that one day we will get to a point where, as Education Matters, we are giving away bursaries. We are, we would have built enough credibility as Education Matters, because as Education Matters, we knew, yes, we may have credibility in other things that we've done previously, but this is new, but people will see us as people when they think, as a company, we have bursaries to give away. Where's the best platform where we know that we will definitely find young people? Young people will definitely respond if we do it through this platform. So I really hope that we will get to that point, whether it's bursaries, it is jobs, whatever that
career advice, career growth, career opportunity.
Basically, maybe someone is preparing for a job interview and they're still panicky, they're not sure, and then they just maybe scroll and say, oh yeah, I remember in one of the Education Matters episodes they spoke about this, and then and then maybe they share testimony to say, oh, actually I went back as part of my preparations to that episode and it really helped me in my interview, that kind of thing. So that in my head, though, at least if those are some of the things that I wish for, that I dream for, that I hope for. But everything else, I've really learned, and it's I also think it's the beauty of life that just go with the flow, and it is a program for the audience. So let the audience, lead you. Say this is actually where we want to go. You think that this is where you want to take us? Actually, this is where we want you to take us, and you follow their lead.
That sounds very interesting for me. Because even myself, I've never thought I'll ever be in a podcast space, right? Never mind hosting people, right? But participate through that medium. Success, right? For this, I'm part of it. I'm part of what we're doing, right? I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what would success look like in the end when we are talking about this particular podcast? Because trust me, and I know there are so many podcasts that are out there, right? Doing all sorts of exciting different things, right? And then for us, what do you anticipate would be moderately, what we would call success?
I think it's actually what I've just described.
Yeah.
A few minutes ago,
yes.
About how we will be the go-to platform for young people, especially those who are still either at the beginning of building their careers,
right,
or who are still thinking about it. I also hope that even to partner with schools, the different schools, right, and just make education cool, because I think what we have seen as well, of course, is because of the frustration, right, somewhere there's a narrative that says, oh, but education is a waste of time, right, and hopefully as we have the conversations, and the broader conversations, right, we will also just get to a point, or at least go back to a point where education was cool, because it serves different purposes beyond the certificate, yes, beyond the qualification, yes, yes.
As they say, education is life, right? Because if I were to think back about my time at school, it was horrible in parts, right? It was horrible in parts, but also exciting, you know what I mean? The things that one went through, because I remember back in the day, Tina, a class in one big long room, there'll be 120 of us. You know what I mean? So if you are at the back of the class, you hear nothing. The teacher is there at a far distance, and you fall asleep. You only wake up, master, right, Kolan. And she said, Kolan, what? That the teacher is asking a question. Never mind during breaks. I went to school at the time when 5 cents was worth a lot of money. It was worth a lot in terms of value. We say 5 cents in kafa scotch. I'm sure these kids don't even know what kafa scotch is. Those are the things that I'm hoping a podcast also is going to extract from people.
Absolutely.
What has been your experience at school, besides it being horrible, right? But I've told you stories of things that I have done, memorizing long Afrikaans poems and coming up with solutions. We say, actually, Mr. Tsele, this is what he doesn't do. And then I still remember the name of the poem that we were doing. It was called Meskiteya. Because we were doing Afrikaans in primary, right? Siseke is at end, but we're doing Afrikaans, and you're thinking, where am I ever going to speak the Afrikaans? But I remember it was the most difficult poem to remember. But what did I do? I came up with an idea. You know what I mean? Because he would come in and say, right, all those who know my poem, stand up. And then they would stand, right? All those who are seated, obviously they didn't know. Corporal punishment was still the thing, right? I'm I'm sitting there and I'm tired of njalo yashawa all the time. You know, I looked, I was like, all right, me entrepreneur. But I didn't know which I was an entrepreneur and a creative thinker then, because I was like, Yabo, if Mr. Cele comes in and he says, all those who know my poem stand up, I was going to stand. And boy, did I stand. And that was a success up until a point where Usli, not you, I'm just using Usli deliberately, right? Usli stood up. Usli is not really gifted like a classy, you know, Masugu Musli. And guess what? What? You too? Sli? You know my poem. All right, this is what we're going to do. All those that don't know my poem, I'm going to forgive you today. There'll be no corporal punishment, okay? Just sit and listen to Usli no Polani doing it. Man, I hated to sleep. I did. I hated to sleep because there I was. Because I only knew it was like 8 stanzas, right? My paragraphs are 8. And you know, I only knew 2, right? And he's got this, right? So I started panicking. Stanza 1 send 2, and after 2 there's nothing. Right towards the end, you know, you start scratching out. Okay, carry on, Kolani, carry on. And I knew, and we got a beating of a lifetime. With that view, it was maybe generation layer, Mr. So those are the things that we want to hear from our guest. We see, yes, it may have been hard and harsh, but still there was a bit of fun. So yeah, with that, any last words maybe? Yeah, well, I know you've been sitting here laughing at me and telling my Afrikaans poem story, and
I thought you would share actually the 2 stanzas that.
Oh, I know, Lalela. Yeah, there's so much. See, there's so many stories that I remember. In fact, I want to write a book about my education experiences back then. You know, Tina, during break, this is where Ngempela things got heated up a little bit because there were little groups in amongst ourselves, right? Because I remember one of the guys, Upesival, tall guy, you know, but very friendly and soft, as tall as he was and as big as he was. Bullying at that time, it wasn't called bullying because you would go home to a cleaner, you know, be firm. And she's like, how am I going to be firm, you know, in front of a guy who's bigger than me? And so Upesival, I would think, oh, Pesi, we've got you, then we're going to be okay. No, it's a shower night. Can you imagine a giant? This guy's like, Pesi, do something. And Pesi, ukala that, you know, that sort of thing. And Yakumbulisi Upesi wait my figure with his sandwiches because we would sit, there were 5 of us, right? And at that time, right, cheese was a delicacy, right? When you find peanut butter, which was okay, but cheese was a delicacy. Polony was a delicacy, right? But Tina, we didn't look at it as poverty and that sort of thing. Yeah, but Manju Festival, I'm a sandwiches in you know, it's like you know. So what we used to do, we see, there were 5 of us, and then you carry 5 sandwiches, right? And then got a wonke anemfino ka festival ayesala. But I mean, those are good memories that one has, despite Mr. Cele giving us hell, but still working on a sandwiches and festival. So those are the things that I think contributed to the person that I became. You become resilient, you learn a lot from situations and from others and that sort of thing. So education matters. I know somewhere, somehow we'll make allowances for those things. Yes, come here. Tell us about your Percival story. Tell us about your sleeve story. Tell us, you know what I mean? And how then that shaped your character. So when you started saying we should actually have these type of, you know, segments where people actually take us through a day in the life of, you know, at school. So I kind of like that concept, and I know and I hope it's going to work. Buga, you were sitting here laughing at me all the time. My sandwiches army, Percival shower now, Mr. Cele lapana giving us hell. You know, it's a lot. I'm sure now and next time when we talk, you will be sharing with us your own stories. I know there are stories behind the scene.
Yeah, no, Ungane, I'm thinking that sandwich with Imfino was the healthiest of all the sandwiches. But you guys didn't know, of course. But yeah, no, I'm also looking forward to more high school anecdotes and just brilliant conversations.
That's what I'm hoping for. And with that, Slee, I would like to thank you for coming through. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity. You know, it's very rare, not necessarily rare, umuntu who's qualified in something else, they grew a passion for something else. You know, you would think it's okay, journalism, all right, you know, you just go there, chase stories, put them in the newspaper. But here you are saying education, and it is worth more. So any umuntu out there, right, who's also got a passion, we are saying follow your passion. It will lead you into doing great things like Slindile is doing with the Education Matters. Siyabonga.